just mentioned two different definitions. One is algebraic multiplicity. The second one is geometric multiplicity. And the definition are quite different. Okay, this is very simple. First one, algebraic multiplicity, just how many repeated lambda I, repeated root, how many number of repeated root lambda I. The second one is quite a little bit different because if we have a repeat eigenvalue here, and probably we can get the same eigenvalue probably have many different eigenvectors all corresponding to the same eigenvalue here. So in this case, if we have m different eigenvector, they are all corresponding to the same eigenvalue here. So this number m, we call it the geometric multiplicity of lambda I. Let's do definition. Okay. And here's an example. Let's show you these two definitions. Okay. For example, the first one is we have this matrix A like here, and we calculate its characteristic function here. And then we get we have two eigenvalue one. We have two eigenvalue lambda 1 is equal to a. It's repeat twice. And the other one is lambda c. Okay, just single lambda c. And in this case, we have algebraic multiplicity equal to 2 because we have square here. And the geometrical multiplicity is 1 because 1. Let me see where is it over here. Yeah, because you only can get one. For example, for this eigenvalue, you only can get one corresponding eigenvector. Let's see, should be probably here. Yeah, here. So see, the first one, number 1, number 2 equal to same number A. They all corresponding to phi 1 here. So in this case, geometric multiplicity is just 1. And the lambda 3 equals C. The third corresponding, the third eigenvector is this one. Okay. And here's another example. Here is a different situation from the previous one. For example, if we actually calculate the characteristic polynomial, you get this result. That means all the three eigenvalues are the same. They are all equal to A. So in this case, we have algebraic multiplicity equal to 3. And we have geometric multiplicity equal to 2 because we can find these three eigenvalues corresponding to only corresponding to two different eigenvectors. It's called phi 1 and phi 3. Okay, only two corresponding to two different eigenvectors. And why we have to define these two multiplicity here? Because we found actually some matrix is not perfect. It's not some matrix cannot get, you always can get distinct eigenvalues. Some matrix has repeat eigenvalue, and in this case we call we give it another name for this kind of matrix. For example, here we talk about defective matrices. This definition is following. If you look at the description here, it's called an eigenvalue whose algebraic multiplicity 6 is geometric multiplicity is called defective. That means, for example, in this case, okay, when you say R here greater than M here. So in this case, we call this kind of matrix defective. And matrix containing defective eigenvalue also called defective here. So for example, in this case, we have only one eigenvalue, but they repeat twice. So in this case, we have algebraic multiplicity equal to 2, and the corresponding eigenvector just 1 here. We just have one eigenvector corresponding to lambda equal to 1. Okay, so in this case, the geometric multiplicity is just 1. Okay, and the dimension. Okay, and let me see. Okay, geometric equal to multiplicity 2. Okay. Yeah, it's equal to 2. So in this case, this matrix is called effective. Effective. The dimension of corresponding subspace is 1. Okay, so because we only have one eigenvector here, this matrix has a repeated eigenvalue with only one eigenvector. Okay, this is the case we talked about. So we can use the reverse definition to try to do something. Here we give another definition. We call it the generalized eigenvector. Generalized eigenvector. Originally, we define eigenvector is like a minus lambda I times the eigenvector equal to 0. Here we give another a little bit different definition. If we have power k here, the power k here, and this matrix is multiplied by itself k times, okay, k times, and times eigenvector, and then the whole thing equal to 0. And we call this kind of, in this case, we call this phi, we call it the generalized eigenvector. When k equal to 1, it reduces the original case we already talked about. It's called ordinary eigenvector. Okay. Why we have to define this? Because we found the matrix has a repeat eigenvalue, for example, k times. We probably have used this kind of definition better. For example, we can do, if we define it this way, we can find k different eigenvector corresponding to the same eigenvalue, and then we can use those two k different eigenvector to consist of another matrix, and then we can do many other things. For example, here, there's an example. If we can find, for example, if we have multiplicity m, lambda has a multiplicity m here, but only corresponding to phi 1, and then we can find the rest of the m minus 1 eigenvector by this formula here. Okay, for example, the very first one, phi 0 equal to 0, based on our definition, right? Phi 0 a under I equal to nothing here. Okay, then you probably now you try to increase k from 1 to m, so you get a repeat result here, like here. Okay. So actually, if you do this way, you can find all the rest of eigenvector by this equation, and then they are all linearly independent. Okay. Now let's look at a few examples here. If we consider the effective matrix like this matrix here, and we try to find its generalized eigenvector. Okay, because this matrix has a characteristic equation that here is a repeat rule equal to a here, repeat twice, and we only can find one eigenvector here, and because in this case, based on our definition, is a defective matrix, so we can find its corresponding to generalized eigenvector, like the following process here. The first one we can use, we already find only one eigenvector, and we try to use this one to create another eigenvector. Okay, so we can find this second eigenvector, like this result here shows here. So the second eigenvector here is equal to chi and 1. The chi is an arbitrary number. The third method is an arbitrary number. And how can you show this vector is independent of this original 1, 0 vector? How can you show that? If we here's tell you why. Because we already mentioned about all the eigenvector found by this formula are linearly independent. So because we have just two vectors here, and we try to verify their independence, we just need to do the inner product of them, and then we get chi here, the value chi here, and we can use a normalized vector here, and then actually we get the same we get this result here. I'm not sure if you guys remember from the linear algebra, you can see if you have two vector, they are independent. You cannot find any combination between them. Okay, you cannot find any combination, linear combination between them. So in this case, because we have a value here, chi here, so you can prove the final result inner product here is not zero. For you see, no, if chi is greater than zero is okay. Okay, actually just show you the final things here to show you they are independent. Okay, you can go back to Singapore 5 based on the independence definition. If you are not familiar with that, okay. Now, this slide just show you some interesting remark. If you use the reverse generalized eigenvector vector here, they consist of a new matrix here, and this is your M matrix. Then you use this M matrix times this generalized vector matrix here, then you can get this result here. Okay, the result here. Maybe in this case just swap. You just swap the order here. They didn't change the result. Okay, that shows you what? Shows you can get this is eigenvector matrix. A times the eigenvector matrix equal to this the eigenvector matrix times lambda. Okay. The other case, if you use A, if A is replaced by B in the matrix A here, then you also can calculate, just use chi equal to 1 over B minus A here. Then these two eigenvector, they are not generalized eigenvector, they are real eigenvector here. Okay. Is calculated by the original method we already saw. And finally, you can find the final result here. This matrix is diagonalized because we have two distinct eigenvalues in this matrix. Okay, so finally we can diagonalize matrix like here. Okay, it's quite different. And then here's one thing we have to be careful is defective matrix actually is highly sensitive with respect to the change of the original matrix. Here's an example here. If we have matrix A here, and then epsilon E, if we consider epsilon E originally is 0, but because for some reason we don't have 0 here, even epsilon is a very small number. What will happen? Okay, this is not 0. Epsilon is a very small number here, and we try to calculate this characteristic polynomial here, and then we can calculate eigenvalue like this equation here. So if we plug in epsilon is 10 to minus 10 power here, and then finally we found the perturbation. That's because of this error. Even this error is very small. It significantly affects the original eigenvalue calculation. You see? Okay. If 10 to minus 10 power is very, very small number. Even such small number can have a sign. This is actually not very small. Actually, if you compare this guy, it's very large. It's very large. Okay. This is just tell you. Okay. The eigenvalue is highly sensitive. Depends on the original matrix is correct or not. If the original matrix has a little bit of perturbations, then you will result in the eigenvalue quite different, very different. And also, sensitivity is not only the only drawback or only ill we have to care about. The other issue is defectiveness also will slow down the convergence of algorithm of finding eigenvalues. Okay, so because for example, if your original matrix we can say is a defective, and then because of this property, it was quite slowed down, when you use a computer to calculate the eigenvalue for the defective matrix. Okay, and here it shows how to diagonalize a matrix. Okay, we call it a matrix diagonalizable if and only if it is not defective. Okay, that means there's no defective eigenvalue. That means, for example, if all the eigenvalues are distinct, so all the eigenvalues are different. There is no repeat eigenvalue. We can find we can prove that this kind of matrix is diagonalizable. Okay, diagonalizable. Why? If you use the we can look at this formula here, and we can see if we can if they are n distinct eigenvalue of A, so we can use their corresponding eigenvector to consist of this big phi matrix here. Then multiply this A by this big phi matrix here, we get this result here. And then because this big phi matrix is invertible, because all the eigenvectors are dependent, so it's always invertible. So since it is invertible, the final result we can get is one is here. So the big lambda is a diagonal matrix, and whose diagonal terms are just the eigenvalue of the matrix A. Okay. So basically, all the eigenvalue, if you have a real eigenvalue, it's also possible you have all the eigenvectors are complex, and actually, if all the eigenvalues are distinct, they are all independent. Their corresponding eigenvectors are all linear dependent. And any matrix with distinct eigenvalue is diagonalizable. That's true. The proof here. Okay. Basically, defective matrix cannot be diagonalized, as we already showed that. For example, we showed in the previous example here. If this is a defective matrix, the best thing we can do is just we try to partially diagonalize, not completely diagonalize the original matrix. And yeah, that's why you can think about that's why that kind of matrix is called defective, because you can think about this way is some kind of not perfect. That kind of matrix cannot be completely diagonalized. Okay. They just can be reduced, like here we say, they just can be reduced to a block diagonal form, like here we show here. Okay, show here. If you have, okay, for example, if you have a defective matrix, here we introduce a Jordan block form, like this following matrix here. Okay, if you have lambda I. Eigenvalue of A is lambda I, and it has algebraic multiplicity mi, and a geometric multiplicity 1, just 1 here. So we can find a Jordan block corresponding to each eigenvalue here. Okay, then we can use this kind of matrix to consist of another big generalized vector matrix. The final result is here. Okay. Okay, actually kind of complex, but it's actually not that complex. Just think about how to put everything into this matrix as it. Okay. For example, here, if we have a matrix A here, and basically this matrix is defective, or we already saw in the previous case. Okay, and we can find its generalized eigenvector, and those vectors can consist of a big phi matrix here and here. And after we multiply these three matrices together, we finally can get the final result here. And you can see the final matrix is not completely diagonal. It's just partially diagonal. Okay? Because there's 1 here, this 1 is not 0. Okay, so in this case, that means a defective factor cannot be completely diagonalized because it has a repeated eigenvalue. The best thing we can do is just try to partially diagonalize. For example, in this matrix we call it the upper triangular matrix because all the elements below the diagonal terms are 0. Okay. And the other case is Jordan matrix. Yeah. This just shows another story. Is if we have this A matrix here, and we can find its generalized eigenvector matrix like here. Okay, then this is the original eigenvector. We just pull out this vector and use this matrix to multiply this vector, then final result we can get here. And we can also calculate the generalized vector like in this formula here. Okay, we use phi 2 like here, phi 2 here, and we can use this A minus lambda I matrix here. When they multiply together, we generalize another phi 1 here. Phi 1 is this one. Okay, but the interesting thing is we can use this result here and multiply this vector here. We get the reverse eigenvector here. Okay, so this shows a little bit interesting result. Let's tell you this this matrix is consisted by generalized eigenvectors. So if we use this matrix multiplied by itself eigenvector, you can get the other eigenvector. Okay. And this I just show you some history of eigenvalue problem. Okay, if you're interested, just look at it. I'm not going to talk about this. I just show some histories how the eigenvalue problem can be is formed. Okay. Here we talk about some real score form. Remember we already talked about defective matrix. Okay, defective matrix. We cannot complete diagonalize that kind of matrix. And I already showed the best thing we can do is just try to transform original defective matrix to an upper triangular matrix. Here is the case. If we can find 2U, one U matrix, and we use U transport times A times U. The final result we can get is upper triangular form. And then this form we call it a real square form. That means we can use one matrix to try and find the upper triangular form corresponding to original matrix A. And these two matrices and has this constraint here: U transport times itself times U equal to 1. This kind of matrix also called orthogonal matrix, also called forgot the name. Yeah. But you can remember transport. So the matrix transport, okay? U transport times U equal to identity matrix, right? So that means U transport equal to what? Equal to minus U. Okay, so equal to the inverse matrix of U. This is very special matrix. Okay. Okay, now, yeah, let's show you if you can. Sometimes we can do this way. We just find a U to make the original matrix A become an upper diagonal matrix. That's it. And the rest thing here is just tell you we have real matrix, and usually we have a complex eigenvalue. And that just shows you if you have a complex eigenvector here, and its corresponding eigenvalue is also complex. You can write this form here. And you can write in a block diagonal form, like you can write it here, like this one. You just rewrite this equation like this block diagonal matrix form here. Okay? Okay, now we go back to the real square form. Here's an example here. And if we have a matrix in the middle here, and we can create two U here, one is the U is here. So suppose we know how to create this one, and we just use its transpose here, and we can find alpha triangular form like this one. C alpha here means cosine pi over 4. If we use alpha equal to pi over 4, okay. Now the other case is we have a 3 by 3 matrix, and we can find U matrix like here, and then transpose like here. Okay, so finally we can also find alpha triangular form of original matrix A like here. Okay, so what is the future of using this real square form? The one advantage is if we don't need to do inverse. If we can find U, we just use the transpose. The transpose calculation is very quick compared to the inverse calculation. It's very quick and fast. Okay, this is one advantage. Is reduce a lot of computational effort. Okay, and yeah, here's the future list here. Okay, and we don't need to do so many unitary similarity transformation. That means here. Okay, I remember that. This matrix has this. The matrix U has this kind of property. We also call it a unitary matrix. Unitary matrix is transpose equal to its inverse matrix. This kind of matrix is also called unitary matrix. Okay, so unitary similarity has this unitary similarity like this form here. It's called unitary similarity transformation. Actually, very simple. It's very simple. Okay, and that's basically good feature here. Okay, it's calculation very cheap and very quick and also stable. You don't need to calculate a lot of. For example, if you have a big matrix, and you can find its corresponding U, and you just need to do transpose that kind of U, then you can find the upper triangular matrix of the original matrix A. That's a very good advantage. Okay. Now we talk about another matrix has different kind of properties. Different properties. But here here is just to try to tell you what kind of matrix we call it positive definite. Positive definite. Basically, positive definite has the following definition. If you can find any non-zero vector, then its quadratic form is positive. Then this kind of matrix we call it positive definite. Any kind of non-zero vector always satisfy this condition. Then we call this kind of matrix positive definite. Positive definite. Then actually some books also have another definition. It calls if this matrix M, all its eigenvalues are positive, we also call this kind of matrix positive definite. Actually, this definition are equivalent. The proof is right here. Okay, if we can use eigenvalue problem to prove this point here. Why this definition reduced to this definition here? Reduced to the case all eigenvalues are positive. All eigenvalues are positive. Okay, so if you can suppose this matrix has n distinct eigenvalue, and you can also find its corresponding eigenvector, and this eigenvector consists of big phi matrix here. Then when they multiply together, you can get this result, right? And we already saw it in the previous slide, and then we can find its inverse matrix, no problem. So finally, we can diagonalize this matrix, and then we can also we'll plug in this constraint here. Okay, we can, because M can be decomposed into 3 different matrices here, right? And you can see Z transpose times phi. You can view this guy as a single vector, okay? And this guy is just the vector of this guy, the transpose of this guy. So you can have two. So you can have this new vector Z tilde here. And then we found if we multiply them together and spending all the result here, we can get this final result here. So because everything is square here. So they give you a result is all the lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda n should be positive. Should be positive because this is positive. This is big, larger than 0. Okay, no problem, right? Okay. So this here is a spring system example, 2 degree of freedom. If we can write down is a equation, a motion equation, like here. Motion equation here. Actually, I don't know how to write it, but because although I have a mechanical engineering background, actually this kind of motion equation is really far away from my life. Actually, okay. Maybe you guys know how to derive those motion equation anyway. But actually, I don't know. I kind of forgot everything. But it's not important. Actually, if you know how to derive it, very good. I believe this is correct. So if we can derive motion equation with 2 degree of freedom, we are supposed to have 2 motion equations. And after we derive that motion equation, we write them in matrix equation form here. Okay, so we verify which matrix are positive definitely and which one is not. Okay, it's very obvious the mass matrix is positive definitely. Why? Actually, you don't have to use this to verify because mass are all positive, right? So that is also a diagonal matrix. So eigenvalue this M1 and M2 means the eigenvalue of this matrix here. Actually, this should be this typo here. Yeah, should use M or MC anyway. Okay. So this matrix is positive definitely. Positive definitely. And next we look at the stiffness matrix to see if this is positive definitely or not. Obviously, if you can plug it, you can use this any vector, and when you multiply them together and expanding everything and then combine everything, you can see you can find this result here. So you can see it's always positive, no matter what kind of value z you are using. It doesn't depend on the except when z equal to 0. We don't consider that case. We don't think that case. So as long as z is not 0, everything here is positive. So the stiffness matrix is also positive definitely. But the damping matrix here, eta, actually is not positive definitely. Why? If we use the reverse method to check if this damping matrix is a positive definitely or not, you can get this result here. Okay? But unfortunately, if z1 equal to z2, when z1 equal to z2, the whole thing here becomes 0. Okay, so this is another case of positive definite definition. But we call it positive semi-definite. Oh, here shows the semi-positive definite, the same thing. Positive semi-definite matrix. If we have an equal sign here, if we have an equal sign, for example, if we reduce, let me see. If the positive definite matrix definition here, we put another equal sign here. This definition becomes the positive semi-definite. Positive semi-definite. Okay. Okay. Now we talk about factorization. Okay. So if we have maybe input-output relationship described by y equal to a times x, and we can use we can try to factor this A matrix out into 2 different matrices. This is called L and U. This is called this method called LU decomposition. L means the lower triangular matrix. U is called upper triangular matrix. Okay, this is called LU decomposition. Okay, so for a positive definite matrix, okay, for a positive definite matrix, we can factor out actually these 2 matrices. U tilde here is the upper triangle. Because after doing transpose, the upper triangle becomes a lower triangular matrix. Okay? Why? The proof is following. So we can write this quadratic form x transpose times ax equal to x transpose u tilde t u tilde x. Then we can combine. We can rewrite this term here, and then we assign this vector as a new name y here. we know y transpose itself is equal to y squared, sum of the y squared, all the y squared term here. So here is always positive. So that means for positive definite matrix, we always can do this kind of decomposition. Okay, and it's very simple because if a matrix is positive definite, the advantage is that we only need to find upper triangular matrix. We don't need to find the lower triangular matrix. Okay, but if the matrix is not positive definite, basically you have to define two different matrices. Okay, upper and the lower triangular. Okay. Now here is an example. Okay, we call it if A is a positive definite matrix, we can use LU decomposition, like this form here, and we can finally do can just sort of rewrite this like this form here, sort of rewrite like this form. Divided by square root of 2, both sides here we get the same thing. Okay, now general matrix. Here is an example of positive definite matrix, but here is an example of general matrix. That means this matrix may not be a positive definite matrix, but in this case, we can do a LU decomposition. For example, if we get here's examples, we can after we're doing a LU decomposition, the result is here. We have upper triangular matrix, but this is looking like lower triangular matrix. Why? Because if you have a lower triangular matrix, this term should not be 1, should be 0. And you probably have another non-zero term here. So this is actually not real LU decomposition. Why? Because but it still look like similar. Why? Because you can if you pull out this matrix here, and then we rewrite it like this form, we get another lower triangular matrix. Just time this called permutation matrix. This matrix is called permutation matrix. Yeah, actually, pretty much. You just change the direction. Okay, change the direction. Make this equation and this matrix become a lower triangular matrix. You can factor this matrix into two different matrices. One is lower triangular matrix. The other is called permutation matrices. Okay, no problem, right? Singular value decomposition. Singular value decomposition actually is a very important method. Why we need to study it? Because it's singular value is different from the eigenvalue. You have to know this point. And what is the singular decomposition? What is the singular value decomposition method? If we for example here, if we have matrix A, and we can find a nu, A times nu equal to some constant times another vector here, and we call this vector as a case right singular vector. Its size n by 1, because original size A is n by n, so this one is n by 1. Okay, then this is a constant, and we have another singular vector here is called n by n. Okay, now if we consider a case m greater than n, so in this case we can write this as a matrix form, like here. Okay, like here. So A times B equal to U times sigma. U times sigma. Okay, U times sigma. And you can see the sigma matrix is consisted by this singular value here, and all the rest of this equation are 0. All the rest of this row and column are 0 here. Okay, understand? So basically, if you can find A matrix times of nu and sigma, and U like this form, and we call sigma is a singular value, and nu k, uk, we all call is the left and the right singular vector. And this whole matrix consists by all the right eigenvalue, right singular vector, and we give it a name big V here, and we all the U consider big U matrix here. if we can do this way, we call it, we do it singular value decomposition. Okay, because we decompose the original matrix A times V by two matrices called U and S. Okay, so conventional definition is if we can show, basically if we use V inverse transpose. If you can transpose this guy, you transpose this one, you times V transpose here, you have V transpose here. Because V transpose and V equal to identity matrix, so you get the left hand side here is equal to A matrix. So finally you get this result here. Okay, if you have U and the V, they are all orthogonal matrix. Okay, orthogonal matrix. Okay, let's look at some example here, SVD example here. If we have 2x2 defective matrix, and we can find its V and the U, and finally we can find the sigma here. So that means original defective matrix here can be decomposed by these three matrices. Okay, and another example is a 2x2 rank deficient matrix. Is this one. You see, all the elements in the matrix are the same. They're just one. So we can see, we can also find V and the U decomposition matrix. And finally, you can get this result here. Okay. This is a single value result here. See, there's only one single value here because you see all the actually in this matrix we only have one independent vector because these two vectors are linear dependent. Okay, if we consider 2x2 general matrix here, and general matrix means it is not defective or anything else. And you can see if we can find a V matrix like here, the U matrix like here, we can find that it's a singular value matrix like this one. So you can think about this way. This is a 4-rank matrix. These two vectors are linear independent, so we are supposed to have two distinct singular values here. Okay. The rest things are also other example here. If we have 3x2 general matrix, and basically because this is not square matrix. Okay, so the number of equations is larger than the unknown number. You can think about this way. So in this case, we can. This A matrix here, this is V matrix here and U matrix here. So finally you can decompose this matrix until here. This is a singular matrix here, singular value matrix here. Okay. So because we only have two 4-rank, two independent, linear dependent vector. So we can get only two distinct singular value. And the rest of the here just zero. We already saw in the previous slide. Okay. So now negative the singular value is actually quite sigma 1, sigma. You can find a single if a matrix size is n, and we can find n non-negative singular value, and also normal singular matrix like this equation we showed here. Okay, already saw this in the previous case. The relationship with eigenvalue problem is here. Okay, so if we can decompose A by these three matrices, U sigma V here. So we plug in A and transpose A here, we get this result here. Okay, we get this result here. And this is pretty much the same thing. And it's actually, so you can think about, you can look at the actually singular value just the square root of the eigenvalue of A transpose A times transpose A times A transpose. Or A transpose A is the same thing. They have the same eigenvalue. So you think about actually the singular value. And From this point, you can see the relationship between the singular value and its corresponding to eigenvalue. Okay, so if you want to find a singular, actually you can first find the eigenvalue, then take a square root of it, you can get a singular value. Okay. So if you have X form, for example, here it shows you a simple computation algorithms how to find a singular value, a singular decomposition matrix. For example, you can create a matrix X. If you already know A, right? You can create an X matrix like this form here. And because we already did singular eigenvalue decomposition in the previous slide, we know this matrix can be decomposed into three matrices. Then when they multiply together, we can get this result here. Okay, this sigma here is just the diagonal term of the sigma here. If the diagonal term is on 0, sigma 1, for example, sigma 1 is the non-zero singular value. Yeah, sigma 1 is non-singular because we have a singular value along its diagonal term here. Okay. Now, if we can partition, yeah, we can do this way. Just partition this V matrix into two different matrices, V1 and V2, and then we can use this V1 to calculate sigma 1 and the V here, and the U1 here. Because we don't, some of the singular value of matrix doesn't have any value here. So you need to factor out this V1 and V2, and you just use V1 here because we can get non-zero singular value matrix, and then finally you can determine V1 and sigma 1 here. Okay. Okay. Now we talk about another different definition of matrix. It's called matrix pseudo inverse. Okay. The pseudo inverse matrix of A is equal to the following definition here. Okay? You see, if the original matrix is M by M matrix A, and then its pseudo inverse is M by M. Okay, this is a definition of the pseudo inverse of A. Why is it called pseudo inverse? Because original matrix is not square. So basically, it's not vertical. So it's invertible. So this matrix we cannot directly find its inverse. So we probably can solve another matrix method to replace the original inverse of A, because right now A is not a square matrix. So think about it this way: if this guy can cancel this A here, that means it's sort of inverse of A. Sort of inverse A. Okay, here's an example here. If we have matrix A here, and then we can find we call it star A star here. Pseudo inverse matrix A, like this form here, and when they multiply together, you can get the same A. Okay, we can get the same A. Now, this is basically the definition of the pseudo inverse of matrix A. But if we can rewrite it in a different form, here. Okay, so what can we do? If we do another thing here, right now remember the first one is M times N. M times N, N times N, M times N. Okay. So if we multiply both sides by A transpose. If you multiply both sides of this equation by A transpose, then we get the result. Sorry, I was missing A here. Okay. Now, if you look at these three matrices, and so you can see actually they are the same, because we have A here, the same A here, so you can get what? You can actually get A transpose equal to A transpose A pseudo inverse of A. Then finally you can get what? You can get pseudo inverse A equal to, if this is invertible, basically this matrix is a square. It's a square matrix, okay? So it's an n by n matrix. So you can say if you multiply the inverse of this matrix at both sides, we can get the pseudo inverse matrix A here. So okay, so basically this is the final result. This is all very important. We will use later. Okay, we will use later. So, but here you can also doing a singular value decomposition here, singular value decomposition. Okay. If A can be do singular composition like these three matrix, then the pseudo inverse A matrix is A is just B1 sigma 1 U transpose 1. Okay, you can prove, you can plug in this result here to prove it. Okay. Okay, let's look at some example here. If we have A matrix here, a singular value decomposition is result here, SVD is here. And the pseudo inverse here, based on the reverse result here, you can just use this formula to calculate the pseudo inverse by these three matrices here. So final result is here. And so why would we need a pseudo inverse matrix? Why? Why do we need a pseudo inverse result? Here is some. The following slides show a few different applications. Why do we need a pseudo inverse matrix? So if we consider a linear system here, linear system and the input and output relationship is described by an A matrix. Okay, so we try to find we try to find a good x to minimize this J function here. And this term, y minus ax, we call it error. Sometimes we call it error. Sometimes we call it error. Okay. So this is a vector, right? Vector transpose times itself. So we get what? We get the square of 2 norm. Okay. So we try to minimize this J by some vector x. So how can we do? So of course we can follow our old method from the calculus, just differentiate with respect to x and x2, and we do this way, make the result equal to 0. Finally, you can find this very important result here. I think it's very simple, so I didn't go through the detail, but I think you can figure out after you go home. So the final result is here. And you can see. If you rewrite this result here, and if we can, this is also invertible, we can multiply both sides inverse of this matrix, so finally you can get this result here. And this result is just the A pseudo inverse. Okay, like I write here. Okay, see, like I write here. So I already proved the pseudo inverse involved here. So you can see, the best vector to minimize this function is created by this vector here, A pseudo inverse times y. Okay, the other application actually is following by the previous case. So we call it estimation, D-square estimation problem. As if we have some estimate result, and we try to minimize estimation error here. For example, the estimate result is A hat equal to A pseudo inverse A times y. Okay. Note that y is not equal to A transpose A hat. The best estimation vector is found by this equation here. Okay, if you don't believe, we can plug in the result and check if this result is a minimum error here. Actually, very simple, right? Very simple. Okay, the other case is also similar. Is when m greater than n, when m greater than n, and you also can have this result here. Okay, very simple. So the error is 0. In this case, the error is 0 because we have this example we already saw in the previous slide. We know this equation can be created by these two equations. So there's only one solution, this best solution. So since we have we have only one best solution, the final result of course is equal to 0. The error finally is 0. Okay. Now the other application is data fitting. Data fitting. We can look at this case here. It's very simple. Okay, if you do some experiments and then you can measure some, for example, the following four result here. This is the initial condition. This is your observation when you are doing experiments, and you can measure y1, y2, y3, y4. And this y1, y2, y3, y4 depends on this difference equation here. U beta 0 times uk beta 1 uk minus 1, something like that. Okay. Now, how can you find a best pair of beta to minimize or to fit the data you have the minimum error? Okay, how can we do? The first thing that we can do is we write our observation equation in a matrix form. So here we can write y1, y2, y3 into a 4 by 3 matrix form here. Since we have more equation than unknown, so we cannot directly find the inverse matrix, then we find beta. So the things we can do is we follow from the previous least square solution, and we find its pseudo inverse matrix A. So finally we can get x equal to 1 and minus 1 is 0 here. Okay, it's actually pretty simple. Now another case is when n is smaller than n. When n is smaller than n. So here we have multiple solutions because we have more unknown than equations. So the best solution is shown here. So maybe you don't know how to get this result because we have extra term here. It's pretty different from the previous result m greater than n. See, where m greater than n is different. It's different. For the case m greater than n, we only have this term. We don't have this term here. Because in this case, because we have multiple solutions, so this second term created multiple situation because you can use different z and multiply by this matrix, then plus the pseudo inverse result here, then you can get a different result. Actually, if you multiply a, let me prove for you. Okay, why this result is correct? See. Why this result is right? It's actually very simple. You multiply a, both sides of that equation. Okay. Because you multiply a, you get a here. Because the original is an identity matrix. So you get a star, a here. Okay? So you times z. Okay. Basically, based on the definition of pseudo inverse matrix, the whole thing equal to a here. So this term equal to 0. And then this term equal to identity matrix. If you don't believe, you go back home to check if you did identity matrix. So final result is what? It's 1. So you can get final result is a x equal to 1. Okay, so this is reduced to our original situations. So this solution is correct. But originally, it is not very easy to know how to derive this. But if you prove like this way, you can see it's a correct form of the solution of x. Correct form of solution of x. Okay. Anyway, so we look at the example here. X1 plus x2 equal to 1. So we get the following result here. Okay. And you can see we calculate the A matrix. A pseudo inverse matrix A here, and we plug in here. So everything here we can get is final result is this guy here. So we can assign any value of z. So we can create many different solutions for the vector x. Okay. Probably cannot finish this today. Anyway. Okay, let me skip this one because I try to finish this lecture today because it looks like I don't have too much time. So I skip this example. You can go back to this by yourself. I explain this matrix exponential. Okay. So matrix exponential is like the following dimension. If we have a differential equation, it's a vector differential equation here, and it's equal to a times x, and we have initial condition here. So how can we solve x based on this differential equation, matrix differential equation? The result is actually very simple. You can use a power series method. Think about it. If you have a solution, you can do power series expansion, and you can have this Taylor expansion like here. Okay. Now you differentiate this Taylor expansion respect to t, you get this final result here. Okay. Now, because after you differentiate, it should be equal to a times the original x. So you after equating the equal power 10 over t, you get the final result is this one. z1 equal to a z0 equal to a times x0, and z2 equal to 1/2 and a times z1, something like that. The form seems like this. If following this, all this process here, finally you can conclude the final result here is xt equal to this result times x0. Then we can give this result as a name. We call it exponential at. Okay, exponential at. Basically, it's just think about it. It's very simple. It's just exponential function at Taylor expansion. Very simple, right? So think about it. Xt right now is equal to eat times x0. Okay, and in linear system, we also call this kind of matrix. It's a transition matrix. Why is it called transition matrix? You can think about the initial times 0, and then we transmit this state to another time state. Okay. Good. Right here. Because the system is linear, so the state transition matrix is just exponential function. You can say xt here right now is equal to e a t x 0. See, when the time is equal to 0, x in this state, right? Then we call it state transition matrix. Because it transmits original state at time 0 to another state at time t. It's called state transition matrix. It transmits original time, only state at time 0 to the time t here. And it has several interesting properties. We'll show the next slide. Okay, for example, if you have two exponential matrices here, and you multiply them together, because we have the same a here, so we can combine the exponential term here, okay? And if you do the inverse, actually very simple. We just need to do put the minus sign to the original exponential function here. And then when you do the determinant, actually just try to determine all the exponential function here. You just need to do the calculate the trace of a and find this exponential function. Okay. This result, this property a little bit different from the previous case. For example, you cannot A times B EAT times EBT equal to A plus BT if only if A and B are commutative. That means AB equals to BA. A times B equal to B times A. Only these conditions satisfied, you can have this result. If this condition not satisfied, you don't have this result. It's very different from our scalar case. If you, for example, if you have two scalar EA times EBT, you can always combine the exponential term, no problem, right? Very simple, from the basic mathematics. But if these two guys are matrices, you cannot directly combine them. Only they have this condition satisfied. Okay, that's very important. And also, if A can be due a single eigenvalue composition to the three matrices here, then the exponential matrix here you can just calculate the original matrix here and do the same thing. And you time this guy both side T and the T inverse. Pretty much the same. Okay. Okay, now this is just an example to show you that if we have original matrix here is a resulting exponential matrix function look like this way. The diagonal matrix is very simple. Always in here is diagonal. Okay. The important matrix just have this result here. The important matrix is actually it's a very special matrix. You multiply yourself several times, everything will reduce to zero. This is called important matrix. Okay. If you don't believe we can multiply this matrix itself maybe 3 times, everything will become zero. Everything will become zero. Here the same thing. Okay. And we have a skew symmetrical matrix like this one. The skew symmetrical matrix is this form. All diagonal terms are zero, and the opposite diagonal terms are just they are just different in sign. Okay, they are different in sign. And finally, we can, because this is just 2 by 2 case, we can calculate its exponential function like this. The final result here. The spatial block matrix like this one, like this one. Actually, you can think about this matrix just this matrix plus diagonal matrix sigma. Then we can get this result here. So these 2 spatial matrix has these 2 spatial result here. Okay. Okay. Now we can look at some proof here. For example, this is the proof for spatial block matrix. We can see why this result will equal to this result from this proof here. If we compute, we can prove these 2 matrices, they are commutable. They have A times B equal to B times A, no problem, right? Alright, then we can write the original exponential function here to 2 different matrices. Exponential function here. And since these 2 matrices are commutative, so we can separate them to 2 different exponential matrix functions here. And we found the previous result. We see this will reduce to this case here, and then this one will give you this result here. So finally, we combine them together. We get this result because you can pull out this term. The rest of the matrix is just an identity matrix. Okay, and we can use the previous property and the result to solve this differential equation, matrix differential here. For example, if we have A here, A matrix here, and we just try to find its EAT matrix, we can write this one here, and we use the reverse property here. We can conclude our final exponential matrix function is like this equation here shows you. Okay, now, and then finally you can have this result here. Okay, so because this result is from the reverse result we already solved on this one. So you can see the solution here is just can show you can be presented by these 2 figures here. They just cosine and sine function, and they have damping. They have damping result here. Okay, so the energy will eventually go in 0. because we have 10 in 10 here. Okay. And the differential equation, if we have input, the previous one we don't have input. Okay. What about if we have input? How can we solve this kind of a situation? If we have input, actually very simple. We can also multiply this equation both sides by this one term here. So you multiply this guy here and multiply this here, and everything multiplied again. And because this 210 is equal to this differential equation here. Okay. You can try to take a derivative with this function and get this term. You can get this 210 here. Then you integrate both sides of this equation. Then finally you can get a result here. And eventually you can get this result like this one. It's very simple. You can go back home to check if the result is correct or not. It makes sense to you or not. Okay, so the result actually very simple. Okay. So finally you can get this result here. Okay, so this is the state transition equation. We have input, non-zero input. The thing about if right now u is equal to 0, you will reduce to the previous case, right? Reduce to this case, u is 0. But here we don't have 0 input, so we have this extra force response here. This is called force response. Okay, and this is called natural response. Okay, I think Professor John already mentioned in the previous lectures. Yeah, here's an example. Yeah, let's show you how to calculate it. If we have M matrix like this one, and B matrix this one, and we can calculate EAT based on the previous result, and finally we can get this result here. And we plug in all the result here to the equation, to the previous showing the previous slide here. So finally we can, if we assume the input is just 1, we have a constant input or state. Our unit step input, so we can get a result here. Final result is here. Very simple, not difficult. You can go back home and check it. Okay. Okay, I guess I finished the slide today because the rest 2 slides I'm not very familiar with that. It's about the vibration and wave of train. It's totally out of my knowledge range, so I'm not going to talk about these 2 slides. Okay, so here's the conclusion for the lecture today. In this lecture, we basically introduced the fundamental knowledge of matrix algebra. Okay, I think most of the content in this lecture, maybe most of you already know. So it should not be difficult for you guys to understand what I'm talking about today. Anyway, any question? I'm going classes finish today. If you have a question, just ask me.